Today, I'm going to talk about accessible computing. My focus is not just web accessibility. I'm more focused on computational aspect, how to make computing environment more accessible. Personally, I have a visual impairment. I'm almost totally blind. And my research particularly focuses on how to make STEM learning, computer science, data science more accessible for blind and visually impaired people. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to focus on data science and visualization, visualization. If time allows, I can also talk about some other programming aspect and programming accessibility. So from today's short talk, you will be able to understand the following concept: data verbalization, data sonification, and reproducible and accessible data visualization and data science workflow. And this talk requires some background knowledge. It doesn't matter you have that background knowledge, but it would be beneficial if you have those knowledges. So this talk is based on the assumption that you have some experience with our programming languages or statistical computing or Python. But I'm going to use R as an example, and some background knowledge in Pandoc Markdown. If you don't know what Markdown is a plain text-based syntax that can be multi-formatted into HTML, EPUB, docs, etc., etc. And Pandoc is one of the famous Markdown engine, open source engine. Before I dive into today's topic, let me ask this question. How do you use computer? Even though I have here but let me ask, how do you use computer? Most people might use mouse and keyboard as an input device, and a computer monitor, the screen as output device. This is just a typical way of interaction with computer. However, in the beginning, I told you I'm a blind individual. So my interaction with computer is a little bit different because I can't visually track mouse pointer on the screen. So I don't use mouse at all. Of course, I use some kind of virtualization technology when I need to control mouse pointer, but I don't use a physical mouse. Instead I use a keyboard only as my input device. For blind people, this QWERTY keyboard layout is accessible because if you feel your keyboard, you can feel J I'm sorry, and F, you can feel a little bump dot in your index finger that indicates F and J position. And everything is tangibly identifiable. So I have my own mental map of keyboard layout. So there's no accessibility barrier in terms of using keyboard. But the real problem is the monitor, the output. I can't see the monitor. So I need to use some workaround. I use screen reading software that can be translated, that can translate all the text information on the screen into speech synthesizer, audible speech synthesizer. So I use a speaker as my output device. And my screen reader also translate text information into tactile display called refreshable braille display. So I can consume some visual information in a tactile form as well as audible form. So this way of interaction, although it seems sort of unique or a little bit different, this is how other blind and visually impaired people use computer. And I started with this question and this kind of input and output modality first because our computing environment is highly vision oriented, and I wanted to think about how we can make computing environment more accessible. So today I'm going to demonstrate how I have addressed these issues in the context of data science and programming. So here, the diagram, the flow chart indicates a basic data science workflow from importing, tidy, transforming, communication, visualization, etc., retrieved from R for Data Science, written by Hadley Wickham. As you imagine, in the data science workflow, the most challenging part is data visualization, because the data visualization, by the term itself, it implies that you need to interpret some visual cues. However, as I demonstrate in the previous slides, if you can't see through the monitor, you need some kind of alternative workaround to interpret the data. So data visualization doesn't make sense to everyone. So I'm going to demonstrate some useful strategies that I have developed in my own workflow as part of reproducible data science workflow. Although I'm going to use R as an example, this can be actually applied to other programming languages, because programming languages are highly extensible by nature. But I really like R. I'm going to explain why I love R. I'm a big fan of R in the next slide. There are several reasons I like R. First, R is fully accessible via keyboard. So everything is command line based. Of course, Python, Julia, these languages are also command line interface, and they are accessible, but are is my first go-to. And R has R flavor, R markdown, called R markdown, that is very accessible and versatile. And there are many open source packages or projects that can support alternative data visualization. So there are some accessible packages that I can introduce to you today. So first, a GT is a grammar on table. I'm one of the co-authors of this package. GT is a data table package that can translate data frame into HTML or docs or RTF table format, and those table are readily accessible to screen reader. And there is a package called Braille R, and Braille R was developed by a blind statistician in New Zealand, Jonathan Godfrey. And this package can translate some data visualization into accessible format. I'm going to demonstrate later. And there is a Sonify package that can produce sonification of linear or scatter plot data into 3D audio. Of course, our Markdown is Swiss Army knife package that can translate LaTeX into MathJack's accessible MathML format, and this can include all the source code and output all at the same time, and this is a very accessible. And Shiny is interactive dashboard data dashboard package that is becoming accessible, and I was privileged to be part of Shiny team a few years ago, and it is getting accessible. So today I will more focus on data verbalization and data sonification as starting points. So what is data verbalization? So simply speaking, data verbalization is providing meaningful alternative text for your data. This is not difficult concept, but everyone knows already what the alt text is. Alt text, if you know the web HTML language, is just attribute denoted with ALT inside the IMG tag, and you can provide alternative text for your IMG image, right? And alt text is a semantic tag metadata, and this is useful not only for screen reader users, but also for machine learning training as well, and we're search engine parser, because this can be great labels for the images. So when machine learning gets trained for lots of images, they need the labels, and alt text can be used as a metadata label. So I strongly recommend always include alt text for any image file, not only for screen reader purpose, but also for machine learning training and search engine parser benefit as well. Okay, so here is a simple formula that Amy Sizzles recommend providing alt text. So just give me a second. I got the question in the chat. I just want to pause and top in as the question part of the presenter. I notice that you are using slides for our benefit for if you are presenting to our other people who couldn't see well, what would your presentation format look like? Okay, good question. This is really good question. I want to reshare my screen with my sound. Oops, sorry. Yeah. Yep. All right. I'm going to share my sound. And share. All right. You might hear my screen reader sound now. Okay. This is my screen reader sound, and it's kind of fast. So if there are any participants having visual impairment or any difficulties accessing my share screen slides, I have made my slide available on GitHub as a web page. So I'm going to just copy and paste the URL here, and so that any audience having visual difficulties can access there. Okay. Okay. And one thing that you may notice that when you change the slide, you might hear some sound effect. I'm going to demonstrate. Screen sharing meeting controls. Administrator. See Windows. Accessible data visualization and reproducible Google Chrome. PC. Share this page button. Off. Escape. Shift F6. Database society /source. Visit database society / virtual PC. Accessible data visual. Do you hear this? So this is how I recognize how I changed my slide, whether my slide has changed or it's increasing or decreasing. Okay, I think I hope that addressed Tobin's question.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Yeah. So let me remove my screen reader sound again and let me proceed. That was really good question. So I really like web presentation, like HTML format, because PowerPoint sometimes is tricky. Of course, Microsoft is getting better. They have accessibility checkers, but accessibility means that usability, easy usability plus wide coverage for people with and without disabilities. And I think web presentation is a really good format. For your information, I have created my presentation using R and R Markdown. Everything was made using R and R Markdown by myself. So anyhow, let me go back to my alt text example. So there are simple rules that you can remember. So in any data visualization, data verbalization, please remember to include the three components. Chart type, that's the first component, chart type, and type of data. And the last component, the reason why you include the chart. So it doesn't have to be very long, lengthy, verbose description, but you may want to include those three components and hit the nitty-gritty. So here are some examples. So here is a bar chart. How would you describe this bar plot to those who can't see? Of course, data visualization always requires context, because otherwise it's just a photo, right? You need to understand the context and data, where the data came from. So I'm giving you the answer here in the following slide. So here is the answer. So first component, the chart type, that is bar chart. So first component needs to be included, bar chart, and followed by the data of gunpowder per 100,000 people. Okay, that's the data, and followed by reason. You need to explain what this chart represents, the pattern, where America's murder rate is 6 times worse than Canada and 30 times Australia. So this is simple, but this is very comprehensive enough. So this is a really good example how we verbalize data visualization. So I always teach data verbalization to my students in my data science course, because if you don't understand why you visualize your data, your visualization is just like a picture, just like a photo. It doesn't have any like a data chart meaning. So by practicing or by verbalizing the meaning of the data, you can better understand your data. So I think this is a beneficial, mutually beneficial, not only for blind people, but also for other people who can see. Oops. Sorry. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, I saw the question. Would you mind reading the question?
Yeah, the question is saying, for a 2D graph, do you specify the labels on horizontal and vertical axes, or do you say this versus this? Do you describe it?
So that's the matter of preference, but according to this simple 3 rules, we don't need to talk about orientation, because orientation is visual aspect. So sometimes we can make horizontal bar plot, or like landscape or portrait bar plot, but the nitty-gritty doesn't change. X-axis and Y-axis, of course, that is useful when you want to understand some data detail. In this bar plot, you can of course detail the X-axis and Y-axis if you like to include, but the nitty-gritty needs to be included first. But that's really a good question, but that I would say that's optional. I hope that answered your question.
That was
here.
I was just going to say that was Jim Leonos from Penn State.
Yeah, that was a great answer. Thank you.
You're welcome. Here is more complicated example than bar plot. Okay, of course you need some context. Here is how we can describe this. So type of graph, colored stripes of chronologically ordered temperatures. So this kind of a mixture of type of graph plus data. Okay, color stripes. So this is the data, the chart type. Chronologically ordered temperatures. This is the data, and you need to include the pattern. Why? The reason why you want to include this visualization and what you want to represent through this visualization. Where they increase in red to show the warming global temperature. So this is simple enough. You don't need to feel very overwhelmed with the visual aspect. Just focus on the main message you want to deliver through this data visualization. This is a data verbalization. Okay. Okay. Now that I covered how to follow three simple rules when describing data visualization. Let me talk about some more technical aspect. How can we include alt text in our Markdown or Markdown, Pandown Markdown, if you have some knowledge about Markdown and R. So in plain Markdown, including Pandown Markdown or other Markdown flavor, has this kind of syntax: exclamation mark, a pair of square bracket followed by parentheses. So inside the square bracket, you need to include alt text, and inside the parentheses, you need to provide the original img image file source. So yeah, this is just a matter of how we can put the alt text in following the Markdown syntax. So this is a Markdown syntax. And in our Markdown, we can use a feed.alt chunk option that can be included in the opening fence block like this, or option 2, you can have a code chunk option under the opening code chunk block by using fig-alt :syntax. So I'm sorry, this could be boring. This is just a matter of syntax. So I'm just providing this additional information just in case you already know how to use our Markdown and Pandown Markdown.
I think the audience appreciates these details very much. You're speaking to folks that do this for a living.
Thank you very much. And this is a real example how we can include alt text in ggplot. ggplot is one of the most famous visualization packages in R. And ggplot has alt attribute, but many people don't know about this attribute. You can include alt text inside labs function, and you can provide the alt text, and that can be parsed by screen reader. Okay. So now I made you feel bored. I'm going to demonstrate something interesting to you. I'm going to live demo. I'm going to demonstrate how we can auto-generate alt text using our package called Braille R. So let me stop my screen share. No, I need to keep using screen share. I'm going to switch my screen to my terminal. But I'm going to use screen sound share. Just give me a second because I need to let you hear my screen reader sound.
Administrator, C, Windows System Printer, Administrator, C, Windows System 32 CMD documents. Enter, C, Word test.
Okay, do you hear my screen reader sound? Okay,
Yes.
I hope so.
Yes.
I'm going to use
Dash.
Visual Studio Code
Reader.
for
Dash.
this demonstration
Inside period.
purpose.
Period.
But this is not the
Administrator, C, Windows.
highlight.
Administrator, C, Windows. Screen sharing meeting controls. Accessible data visualization and reproduce. Test Visual Studio Code desires.
Okay, and I'm going to open
Script.R, recently. Root 1 empty. 16, Script.R, recently opened. Test Visual Studio Code desires.
R.
Library
This is
controls.
R file.
Library controls. Library controls. Blank.
Okay,
Library blank.
and I'm going to create
Test Visual Studio Code desires.
our
Administrator.
terminal.
Warning, activation of the selected Python environment. Using accessible buffer control plus. Edit. Reader.
Okay,
Using accessible buffer control.
I'm going to quickly produce one bar plot
Library.
using tidyverse package.
Library div. Blank. Right print.
Okay,
Space. First.
and then
Library div first. Right print. Blank.
I'm going to use MPG data and gplot
Right print.
and AS. I'm going to
Right print.
use
Right print. Blank.
class and geombar.
R. Made for formatting edits between lines. GM MPG %%.
Okay,
M.
I'm going to save this and to G
Blank.
object. I'm going to
Blank.
print G
GM.
and
Library
let
MPGs.
me execute.
Starscript.R test Visual Studio Code inside.
All right, you may see
Frame. Bar frame. Read only document. Virtual PC.
bar plot of a class variable in MPG data set on the right side of the Visual Studio Code pane that I can't see, right? So my question is, how can we make this accessible? Of course, we learned how to manually insert alt text, but computational language such as R is very, very powerful. So we can retrieve some kind of visual aspect. And there is a very useful package called Braille R that I'm going to demonstrate. So the library, the package called Braille R, and it has a function called VI. And in the VI function, we can provide the graph object. We save the graph to G. So I can execute VI, and I'm going to show you what happened.
Listbox R interactive 2 of 2. Terminal 1 R interactive edit. Editor content edit from 0 later. From 0 and spans bar set vertically from bar set from 0 to 33.
So I know
label 0 20 4 it has y subcomp mid labels it has no this is VIG later.
It can be hard to see, hard to read. I don't know whether you can read the description here. So what I see here, this is an untitled chart with no subtitle or caption. It has X class with label, two-seater, compact, blah blah blah. So it auto-generated this kind of lengthy sort of verbose description of this bar chart automatically. Isn't it cool? So this is auto-generated sort of alt text.
From 0 to 62. X of expands vertically.
So currently Braille R package can support not only bar plot, but also box plot, and some other basic visualization chart. So I use Braille R package when I need to interact, when I need immediate access to my simple visualization.
Listbox script.r.
Okay, let me pause my sound sharing, and I'm going to resume without sound.
JooYoung, you are down to 15 minutes left in the call.
Oh, I see. Thanks.
And it would be good if there are questions to leave 5 minutes for questions at least.
Yep.
Great. You're doing great. Thank you.
Oh, I think I can just keep doing my live then.
Participants can now see your screen. Screen sharing meeting controls. StarScript, accessible data visualization and reproducible by Google Chrome. Start screen administrator. See Windows system, accessible data visualization and reproducible by Google Chrome. StarScript.r test visual studio code inside of administrator.
Do you still hear my screen reader sound?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, that's
From 0
good.
to 62
That's it. Okay.
Listbox script.r.
So
Blank.
what
Blank.
about?
VIG.
Let me give another example. What about scatter
Blank.
plots?
VIG.
Say
Blank. Blank.
I'm going to create X 1 to 5 and Y 1 to 5.
Y1 5 X1 5 Y1 blank.
And let's plot X comma Y.
Y. Right print. Y1 X1 5 blank. X1 5 blank. X1. VIG. Blank. X1 5 blank. X1 5. VIG.
Oops.
Blank.
Let's see.
VIG blank. 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 VIG.
Just give me a second. My Braille display crashed.
Script.r. Editor 1. Script.r.
Okay.
Off. VIG blank. X1 5. Y1 5. PLTX Y.
There's a typo on the line Y equals 1 to 5.
Underline 1 colon 5 colon 1.
Okay.
Underline.
Just
1. Underline.
I noticed this.
Space dash less X1 5 blank. X1 Y1 PLTX Y. Y1 X1 blank. X1 PLTX Y.
My just give me a second. My keyboard doesn't. My Braille doesn't work.
Plus.
Okay.
Y1 5. Off. X1 5.
Because my Braille
X1 5.
display has some kind of interesting interplay with
PLTX Y.
Zoom. Okay.
Y1 X1 5 blank. X1 5 Y1 5 PL. VIG blank. X1 5 Y1 5.
So
PLTX Y. T.
There was a typo. P, not
Left
P,
T.
P, O, T. Okay, plot.
Y1
Okay,
X1 5
good.
X1.
So here is a scatter plot.
Y.
X, Y, X and Y relationship.
Plot AS class plus EMRG library. Off.
We want to sonify this relationship using
Y greater.
sonify package. There is a
Blank.
package called sonify. Then we can use a sonify,
Blank.
and then
Library sonify. Blank. Blank.
sonify function X comma Y.
Right print sonify X Y. Blank. Library sonify. Blank. Library sonify. Library. 1 to 10 blank.
I wonder if this can be delivered through Zoom. So what it does, it represents x-axis from left to right is the stereo sound, and y-axis in different pitch tone. So it is increasing positive relationship from left to right, the increasing pattern. So I can hear this kind of increasing pattern using sonification.
Yes button.
Yeah, I think
Escape, 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 escape,
due
escape.
to time constraint, I can't
Start script
tell the details. I hope that this can give you a little bit of concept of what I'm trying to
Wiki US left the meeting.
deliver.
Screen sharing meeting control administrator. See Windows accessible data visualization and reproducible by Google Chrome.
So what's next?
Left tab,
So my next project is making all multimodality all together in data visualization
list of items. Bullet visited and ADR. Multimodal access.
called Mater, multimodal access and interactive data
Alt D,
visualization.
address search bar. Bit, line, slash.
So I'm going to give you
Title, Google Chrome, JooYoung UI.
a very
Introduction Google Chrome, JooYoung UI. Virtual
brief
CaRCC.
demo
NVDA users.
of my
What's
tool.
section 2, heat map. Section 1, bar plot.
So say, for example,
List with items. Tutorial 1, bar plot. Task 1, bar plot. Tutorial 1, bar header. Tutorial 1, bar chart.
if I have a bar plot, I want to make it accessible for blind and sighted people and everyone at the same time. So that's why I'm pursuing this next future research called Mater. So in my tool, I can activate sonification and I can use left right arrow key to navigate each data point, and I will hear different tones. And if I press T,
Good 4906. Very good 1208.
I hear all the values. And if I press B,
Braille on.
you may see the Braille pattern in on the screen that can indicate some kind of tactile pattern of this overall graph.
BB. Braille off.
And I have other examples, box plot, scatter plot, and heat map.
Introduction Google Chrome, JooYoung.
So throughout this talk, I wanted to deliver this message. Data science actually requires insight. So that means people without physical sight can access the data as long as you provide accessible content and information.
Get the line dialog. Enter line number 153. Enter line number escape.
I hope
Virtual
that
PC.
today's
Get the line dialog. Enter line escape. Escape.
I'm sorry.
Introduction Google Chrome, JooYoung UI.
Today's talk can give you a little bit of interesting starting point of how we can make a data science or computing environment more accessible for all. Yeah, thank you so much for listening, and I'm open to any questions.
All control shift S. You have started screen share.
JooYoung, I have a question. My name is Annalie Rugg
Yeah.
from UCLA. Thank you so much for this. Is there a reason why R has apparently these libraries, these accessibility related libraries, or maybe they're just the ones you're most familiar with, or are they better? Is R kind of better than other types of statistical packages?
Of course, there are other useful packages available in Python and even SAS. In Python, there is audio chart, and in SAS there is SAS graphic accelerator. But I'm using R because R is highly extensible, and I'm one of the R developers and open source R contributors. But that's just a matter of individual preference.
Thank you.
You're most welcome.
I have another question for you. This is Gladys Andino from University of Virginia. Thank you so much for your presentation. This has been really like enlightening to start thinking, you know, completely of how to make really things accessible for everyone. And I guess the question that I have for you, I'm just curious, how do you got started? So if you had people, beginners, you know, that want to get into data science, but have some of the, you know, how do you get them started? What would be the best way?
That's really good and hard question to answer. We need accessible materials, accessible teaching methods, and openness in our society to include people with disabilities in data science and computing field. And there are, as a blind individual myself, I also face a lot of challenges. I'm a self-taught programmer. I didn't receive any formal programming education in my life. I found finding accessible materials was very challenging, but it's getting better and better. And that's why I'm presenting here today, and to push the boundary of this possibility. And because I believe if everyone thinks deeply about how to make our current environment more accessible, then maybe that small idea can make big change. So there is no right answer on my end, but I would say making some alt text for your open source or open materials that can lower the barriers for those who find the material in the future.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
Well, we are at time. Do we have any other questions? Maybe one more question?
Hi, this is Martin from Utah. I actually have more of a kind of a technical question or curiosity question. The speech to text that you've been running, it's very fast. So are your ears kind of more trained to the quickness of the sound that you can actually recognize it and understand it correctly?
Yeah, I just slowed down. This is not the maximum rate I usually hear. It takes getting used to, though. Most blind people hear in a very high speed rate, and they understand the information at high pitch. I'm sorry, high rate. Yeah.
Okay, great, thanks.
All
I was
right.
just, it was very enlightening to me to see kind of the things that you guys have to interact with, because obviously we don't really, we kind of normal people don't see the perspective that you guys see. So thanks for the presentation. It definitely made me think more about what I can do, to present my materials in a more accessible way.
Yeah, most welcome. I hope that this can give you some kind of starting point in some ways. Okay, I think then time's up. I really appreciate this opportunity again. Thanks so much, everyone, having me join today. And it was my great honor. Thanks so much.